Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Do you see this video about the Kraken?
No.
Okay, so the Seattle Kraken is a NHL team,
Okay.
to which my wife said they have an NHL team. They do, and they're
Apparently.
they're called the Kraken. They have and our friend would be very mad that I can't completely explain. I don't know the backstory to this mascot. His name is Bowie.
Okay.
I, he's not a Kraken. He's some sort of undersea creature who came out of the ice when the team was formed.
Okay.
So as a promotional event, or they're filming something like that, they took a couple of the players up to Alaska with
Mm-hmm.
with Bowie to go fly fishing,
All right.
and they're filming it. And so you have two players from the Kraken, no doubt wearing like their jersey and shorts and fly fishing out in the Alaska wilderness,
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of Alaska. Right
Yes.
next to them is Bowie doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who should show up but a black bear?
Of course.
And it is making its way over to where Bowie is situated.
Okay.
And what I have seen in the news and the end of the stories covering it is that uh, Bowie cut his bait, which is what you're supposed to do if you're fishing when
Mm-hmm.
an animal like that shows up. And I believe he just slowly backed away and kind of like trying to just be like, you're in charge. This is your land. You're here for the fish. Have mine. I don't care. But there have been in all the news reports saying that Bowie or Bowie's friend did the exact correct thing you should do when encountering a black bear in nature.
All right.
So
What do you know?
for our friends at the Hall of Fame, one, I think Bowie deserves some sort of commendation
I agree.
for helping
Yes.
teach everyone about what to do when nature comes to you when you were in their yard. He did
Mm-hmm.
not seemingly break character. He's like, I mean, it's like Pacino doing this thing.
Right. That's
Doesn't
a big
freak out.
deal.
Yeah.
No. Just calmly just lets it happen. But
And
I mean, the Kraken.
right, but thank God Gritty wasn't there because I don't know what would happen then.
I don't know what would Gritty have done.
I feel like that bear would be picking orange fuzz out of his teeth for a while. But
Probably.
um yeah, I just was like, this is we could have had we known this would be a great thing to bring up with our friend.
I know. Well, next time we talk to him, we can talk about it.
Yes. Or maybe I should just email and be like, you guys preparing something to
I think you should. We should
commend
keep
this
in
guy?
touch with him. Yes.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
We put a parental advisory sticker on everything. So feel free to speak freely. But I don't know how anybody would want to cuss when talking about Jessica Fletcher.
Well, surprisingly, I do swear a few times during my show, and it's not a family show, and it's not advertised as children's theatre. So
It-
I do swear a little bit.
okay,
But
as Miss Fletcher, what did,
well,
I
I
guess
don't, I don't.
explain the
Yeah,
concept of what we're
yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
here.
So I don't play Jessica Fletcher as a character.
Because who
Um,
could really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis apparently,
Okay, fair, sure. All right.
so um yeah, so the show is a hostess screening of an episode of Murder She Wrote. I pay a license fee to screen the episode, and it's a whole evening's entertainment, and we watch the entire episode over about 2 hours. But it is stopped and started fairly constantly. We have a thing called a fameometer where we rank the guest stars in terms of their levels of fame for various reasons. Then we have a suspiciometer, which has the suspects' faces on it, and audience members wave their paddles, and when they see something suspicious, and I move the suspects' faces along race. So that's kind of the basic concept of it. But really, it's a celebration of the show and the tropes and the way the show works, and so it's very interactive and very silly. Um, but I do dress up as Jessica Fletcher. You would have seen that on the website and stuff, but I don't do an impersonation of her. It's just
Yeah.
like a kind of deranged fan dressing up as in various outfits. And so
So
that's how.
how did you first come to Cabot Cove?
Do you mean the show, watching the show? I watched it when
Exactly,
it was
yes.
first broadcast on television in the mid 80s in suburban Brisbane when I was a teenager. And I was obsessed with Agatha Christie, and I'd read uh, 65 of her 66 novels before I turned 14.
Cool.
But Poirot and Marple were not yet on television. And when Murder, She Wrote appeared, that was fantastic. And she seemed to be this amazing combination of both Agatha Christie herself and Miss Marple, which indeed was what the creators of a show were kind of aiming for.
So, so what made, excuse me, so what made you decide to take her to this next level, to bring her back to the masses?
Well, it's so weird that I was in a pub in London, and then the title Solve Along a Murder, She Wrote popped into my head. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Like, what would that even be like? And then I took a while thinking about how I could make it work and what that would be. And then it took me about 6 months to find the right people to ask permission to do it. And they said yes, which is amazing.
That is
And then I just kind of put it on at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern in the very end of 2018, kind of as a lark. And that show, which was kind of a bit of a technical disaster, and everything went wrong, and the clicker didn't work, and it was like, but nevertheless, when I finished and we got into the dressing room afterwards, it was like the roar from the crowd was unbelievable. It was like, oh my God, I think I'm onto something. So
amazing.
yeah, so I mean, Toni Morrison said you should always write the novel that you would want to read. So I've kind of created the stage show that I would like to go and
So did you know right out of the gate which episode you wanted to do, or did you have to go back and kind of go through them all and figure out which one
watch.
you wanted to do first?
So for the first one, so the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, where I kind of approached to put it on, is kind of a local beloved venue in London. It's kind of
Hmm.
it's known as an LGBTQ plus venue. So I kind of chose an episode for that for that performance that was called Birds of a Feather, which is set
Uh-huh.
in San Francisco and has Jeff Conaway in it as a kind of female impersonator.
Yep.
And it's really only the second or third episode ever screened. But the thing about it was it's kind of the queerest episode of Murder, She Wrote. Like Murder, She Wrote really in 12 years never really had an openly gay character for the whole time.
Right.
It's a different time, and it was network television and, pre Will and Grace and all of that. So this episode nevertheless seemed to be kind of coded as queer in
Hmm.
many, many ways. But in fact, every character in it who seemed to be possibly a drag queen had a long, passionate kissing scene with a woman. So
Hmm. Of course.
which we which was typical of the time. And so that's kind of the episode I started with, although I ended up not really, I don't do Birds of a Feather that often, to be honest. I spent almost a year doing Broadway Malady,
Mhm.
where she goes to Broadway, and Lorna Luft is in it, and Robert Morse and Vivian Blaine, fantastic actors. And then I did Sing a Song of Murder was the next big one, where she goes to London to visit her identical twin cousin Emma,
Oh, yes.
which is particularly riotous. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but so basically, I've done 42 different episodes since I started doing it.
That's what I
So
was wondering about, because you don't repeat an episode at a venue when you play it, correct?
yes, so when I go back, yes, that's partly true. When I go back to a venue for a second, third, or fourth time, I do a different episode. Although the Prince Charles Cinema in London, where I do it almost on a monthly basis, I've started doing encore screenings every kind of third month, because it is exhausting coming up with, a whole, like creating a whole new episode in a sense. But for the Fringe, which I'm at the moment, you do 21 shows uh, in a row. I mean, I've got the Sundays off, and so for this year, I'm doing the same episode for the
Hmm.
whole 21 times. And last year, I did a different episode for the whole 21 times.
Ooh,
So
that would be exhausting for sure.
yeah, it's. I mean, I love it. It's my third time at the Fringe, and it's such an amazing event, and it's the biggest arts festival in the world. There's 3,500 shows. The show's on every hour from 10 in the morning till 2 in the morning, so
Amazing.
it's kind of amazing. And I do a condensed version of the show. I still show the entire episode, but I do an 80-minute version of the 2-hour show because the Fringe, everything's like shorter. People are going to see
Right.
other stuff.
Sure.
Um, but I do, and it's, I mean, when I did Sing a Song of Murder last year, which is set in the world of like kind of theatre and music hall, there's a bit at the end where Patrick Macnee has an audition and he does a speech from Shakespeare, I think from Henry IV, Part 1 or something. And so I did the show so many times, I learnt off that speech and I lip synced it.
Amazing. That's
Just for no reason, never talked about it, just so the episode I'm doing at the moment, A Fashionable Way to Die with Juliette Prowse, I'm considering lip syncing just her character.
oh,
It's
fantastic.
kind of demented, right? But just don't talk,
Ah,
just lip sync her.
yes.
Yeah, so
And
that's the plan, really. You both, so you sound Heidi and Luke like you're a bit knowledgeable about Murder She Wrote. Did you watch it as well?
Of course
oh,
I watched
definitely,
it.
yes.
Yes. I
And
loved British Hero.
and I think similar to you, it was coming to it through Christie and kind of going like, I like this world. I like the way this is all put together. There's something, the idea, the phrase of the cozy mystery of like, there's something
Yeah,
reassuring knowing that
yeah.
in 45 minutes, Jessica will have this all wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean, I created another show that I did at the Fringe last year that I'm touring as well called It's a Mystery, which
Hmm.
really investigates that. So it really unpacks why cozy crime is reassuring and why it's comforting and what it's about when you consider that the central storyline is about something quite traumatic and horrible. So, which is a murder, So,
Hmm.
so we talk about that a lot, and there's lots of different reasons for it, I think. But I have a theory that this latest boom that's been happening for a while, and there's lots of shows, High Potential and The Residents and the Matlock reboot and Poker Face, and I think it goes back to I can trace it back to early 2020. So I think COVID is
Hmm.
meant that people were seeking out comforting viewing in
And
that
yeah,
sense.
I mean, you hear that about even the Law and Orders, that there is that sense of you can set your watch to these. I know House, people did a whole study of
Yeah,
by this minute in the show, these three things will have happened. Everybody will question it. One person, House will have the end. And that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all done to such a point. I- Is there anything as you do these shows and as for the ones that you've revisited and done a bunch of times, does your appreciation or kind of like understanding of what was done, perhaps completely unintentionally, in the creating something that has become so comforting and such a reassurance for people, have you kind of cracked some of that, having spent as much time? You're probably one of the few people who have seen some of these episodes as many times as you have.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Although I do have fans who come to like every show and they come dressed up, and I call them
Oh,
fan
perfect.
members, and they are amazing, and they do know a lot. So um, I think that for me, I mean, for me, the main appeal of the show, the primary central appeal of the show, is Angela Lansbury playing Jessica Fletcher. And I've got evidence for this, believe it or not. So in seasons, I think I've got to season 8, or maybe even season 6, Angela Lansbury got very tired, and television is really, really long days and lots of hours and like just terrible. Uh, and even though she's done Broadway and film, she hadn't done television. So she was thinking about quitting the show. And the producers said, no, please don't do that. Well, you don't have to be in every single episode. We'll create these other mysteries where you're not in them. And so basically, she introduces them, right? You probably remember some of these episodes,
I
right?
do remember these. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll be typing, and then she'll look straight at the camera and say, "Oh, hello, I'm just writing my new novel, and it's about Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice." And then the screen goes blurry, and then you see the episode, and it's all about Bob and Carol, and not her. And at the very, very end, she comes back. She said, "Oh, I hope you enjoyed my mystery." And it's like, no, I actually didn't, Angela, because you
Right.
weren't in it. You weren't in it. So it's almost like and all the fans hate those episodes, and I will never do one of them. Even though some lovely people, Keith Michelle is, is very good, and the lovely people are in them, I won't do those episodes ever.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like if you had a scientific experiment and said, right, here's all the ingredients, everything in a murder she wrote. So the suspects, the location, the era, the conventions, all of that. What if we took out just one thing, which is Jessica Fletcher, played by Angela Lansbury? What if we took that out? Would it still be appealing, and would we still love it? And the answer is a very firm no. So that's why I think
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, people do love, I mean, in my show, we have party poppers. And at the moment of Jessica Fletcher's epiphany, we all set off a party popper at the same time. So it's a wonderful, so that's a trope, right? That's a thing that happens every episode. People love celebrating that. They love that it's coming up, and it's and people are giggling like crazy, and it's like really sweet. So there are tropes that people find appealing about it. But all the things about why it's really good now, as well as her, I think is a very long answer to your question, Luke. The other thing I think is it really hits a real sweet spot right now in terms of nostalgia, and in terms of like the 80s, and it was also set in the 90s for half of it, but that era, people, young people especially, I've got young people come along to my show, and they're kind of fascinated by the whole thing. They're fascinated by no DNA.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
always I forget that. I forget that there was no DNA when I watch old episodes. I'm like, how
yeah.
do they not know this?
I know it's so weird. I mean, towards the end, the DNA was creeping in towards the end of the 12 years, but definitely, yeah, young people are just kind of fascinated, and there'll be like answering machines and stuff, and
Right.
phone stuff. What the
It's
hell?
amazing.
So,
It's so
Right.
true. So
In going, oh, go ahead.
So, and I am a huge Jessica Fletcher fan. I don't say this, I'm the demented one who loves her so much, but I really always felt that the end of the series should have been that she should have admitted that after all these years in all of Cabot Cove, she was the one who killed everyone.
yes. So this is the I killed them all meme. This is a very popular fan theory, and it's on lots of t-shirts. And funnily enough, it was brought up in one of the episodes. She goes to, I think it's in the episode where she goes to Canada, and she's actually testifying in a court case about something
Yes.
and one of the prosecutor actually says to her, you're around a lot of people when they die.
Right.
It's really funny.
And she's so good that she gets out of it, but I think that I think that it's still the case. And
Yeah,
I think
it does come up a lot. People are often waving their paddles when she's on screen sometimes, and it's like,
yes. Okay, that's my question. Do the
Yeah.
fans also, there
Oh
are a
yeah.
lot of
Oh
suspicious things.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. I mean, but I do have to say that, like, in the episodes, like quite often she has an alibi. She's
Of
clearly doing
course.
something else when it's happening. She would have to be some kind of genius to pull this off.
Right.
But
Well,
yeah,
she is a genius. Clearly, that's why we love her so much.
yeah.
But I feel like the rules of the mystery, the golden age of mystery, one of the rules is you can't futz with the timeline in a way. You can't, what was the one? I think it was A.A. Milne or someone else had the whole thing that like it has to be a mystery that has to be able to be solved by the reader because all of the evidence is been presented throughout. And I feel like the show very much keeps to that and plays fair with that and doesn't pull any rugs out from under anybody. And there's this big reveal
Yeah.
where you go, oh, there's no way I could have seen that coming.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, S.S. Van Dyne wrote one of the many people who wrote rules for mysteries. I mean, I know that introduction to the Red House mystery, he talks about this, A.A. Milne. But S.S. Van Dyne, his first rule is all clues must be plainly stated. So, and that's absolutely true of Murder, She Wrote. They do, you don't ever get hit with a crazy clue right at the last minute that they haven't told you in some way. And as someone who writes and who presents these episodes a lot, like I know that to be true. Like you see it. Sometimes it's, and sometimes it follows some of Christie's tricks where you get given a long list of things that are almost all irrelevant, but the important thing is in the middle of the long list, So. So yeah, it's definitely satisfying for that she gets, you can solve it. And certainly the episodes that I really enjoy presenting are the ones where it's particularly solvable. Like A Fashionable Way to Die I'm doing at the moment, it's quite ingenious and it's quite nice. Although my favorite episode, well, it's a tie between Sing a Song of Murder and Murder Takes the Bus. So I don't know if you remember Murder Takes the Bus. It's on a coach.
Not by
It's got,
title, no.
it's got Linda Blair, Rue McClanahan, and Larry
Oh
Lind.
my,
I mean,
wow.
it's it's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
that episode, I don't know if you remember this, that one, Heidi, but this episode is one in which um, audiences always fail to solve it. They've never solved it.
Yes.
It's quite satisfying in my show because generally the audience do get it right. Their person gets to the end of the suspiciometer first, and they're the winner, and that's. But Murder Takes the Bus. There's just no. I can't fudge it. They totally get it wrong every time. So I don't do it. I don't do it straight up. That's when I'll do on the 8th or 9th time in a venue. I'll say, right, buckle up, kids. Murder Takes the Bus. Good luck. So
That's awesome.
Now, when you go through these episodes, there's 264 and four
yeah,
TV movies.
yeah.
Um, and you're as you're describing these episodes, there's certain ones that, you've really kind of honed down to like this is a great presentation of the show and of your
Yeah.
show and what you're doing with it. Are there episodes of the show that don't work with what you're doing, or is that part of the brilliance of the show itself,
No,
both
no,
your
no.
show and the TV show?
No. There are absolutely episodes that don't work for that. Like one of them is called Trial by Jury, where she's in a jury, and it really is a kind of an homage to 12 Angry Men, the wonderful original Rose play. But that doesn't work because it's really about whether or not this one person who's accused is guilty or not. So that
Mm,
doesn't work for my. And also, there are a number of episodes where it just doesn't fit my structure. Like it takes forever for someone to die. And there's also quite a few. They did fool around with. They had great fun with Murder She Wrote with genre. And there's a number of really good academic books that are out. There's 3 books out at the moment about Murder She Wrote, by the way, 3.
wow.
And one of them talks about how the producers were like, no, we're going to play with this, and we're going to have this episode's more like a spy thriller, and it's a bit Hitchcockian, or it's a bit this. I mean, they all had someone who dies, and then Jessica solves the mystery, but they did play fast and loose with the form. And I did an episode called Appointment in Athens, um, which is kind of a spy thriller, and it didn't work. I mean, it was okay. Audiences had a good time, but I've never done it again because
Mm.
it was just the wrong style. You know, it was like audiences were a bit put off by it. So,
And
and
how?
also the other thing is, of course, it was done in the 80s, right? So there are a number of episodes where it seems like it's going really well, and you're watching it, and then someone will say something problematic, shall we say. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'll be like, and whether it's to do with sexual violence or race, or there is some way you just go, that hasn't aged well. So I'm probably gonna. So at the moment, I kind of set those episodes aside and I don't do them. But um, I do have a clear, strong black fan base, which is amazing, and also a black queer fan base.
Mm.
So, and there's been fantastic stuff written about the New Orleans episodes in particular and how they kind of construct New Orleans and how they construct race in that. So I'm thinking I'm going to be brave and go in and do some of those episodes and really just talk about it, you know, kind of address it head on. So,
Well, and how many of the episodes, as you're going through them, like you said, that they have aged poorly, some of the sentiments or even the dialogue
yeah,
just is not how people think today.
yeah,
How often does it come up? Because I mean, for me, watching something like that, where you're watching it and going, I really love this, I love this, and then there's such a horrible stereotypical trope that just sort of lands at your feet,
yeah,
and you're just like, oh, I
yeah,
can't tell people to watch this now. This is awful. Like as far as transphobia, homophobia,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you said,
yeah,
sexual violence. There's a whole list of
yeah,
things where you're just like, well, this is not fun anymore. How often do you
yeah.
find that in this series in particular?
To be honest, not that often. Like mostly it's like uh, it's dated in some ways, and it's probably quite sexist, I guess, in some ways, just generally.
Hmm.
But mostly speaking, like it's not like it's Kojak or the streets of San Francisco or something. This is not hardcore.
Hmm.
The nice thing is that it's led by her character, and that one of the principles I think of Jessica Fletcher is that she's quite open-minded. And I talk a bit in my show about food, how food is used as a metaphor in the show, because she's a great cook of seafood, and Cabot Cove represents homegrown meals, and it's caught there locally, and it's all that, right?
Hmm.
That kind of Americana thing. But when she travels, she's quite open-minded about meeting new people and new experiences, and that includes food. So she'll often eat tried spicy food or different food to kind of ingratiate herself to a suspect and get them to talk to her. You know, so with that principle in mind, that she's open-minded, that means that the episodes, and it was like Sunday night viewing for the family,
Hmm.
um, uh, in that it's generally not offensive it doesn't happen often, I don't think. Occasionally there'll be something, and I'll go, okay.
Well, and how long does it take you to put one of these together? I mean, you said this was a 60 some of these, taking episodes and performing them.
Yeah, so it takes it's not a really hard and fast number. I mean, it takes a number of weeks of like research, and I mean, I have a structure that works for every show, and I do kind of introduce it and set it up in the same way every time, and tell some of the same gags every time. But the research and getting it together can take a while. I mean, the nice thing is that every episode brings something new, right? And quite often with an episode, there'd be an episode about, for example, I did one called Dance Diabolique, which is about like a cursed ballet, where if you perform
One of
and
those.
you die, right? And Marisa Berenson is in it.
Mm.
Anyway, it's really camp. It's ridiculous. But then I can talk about ballet in movies, and I can talk about like stereotypes and notions, tropes of a cursed work of art and what that's about. And so, and sometimes really cleverly, like Jessica Behind Bars, where she's in a women's prison, the writers take a number of cliches about women's prisons in fiction, and turn it on its head. So if you watch it thinking that you believe you're seeing a cliche thing about a women's prison, but actually it's not true. So they actually use the trope to trick you.
Hmm.
And I can't tell you any more than that, but it's brilliant. And I'm like, so when I do that episode, I talk about women's prison movies and TV shows.
It seems like these shows, even if you're doing the same episode, that the performance of them, there is an element of improv and with the audience, if they're, for whatever reason, one night, everybody's convinced going down one particular path where you're in the back of your mind going, you guys are so far off. This is going to be great when the reveal comes. How it must change up somewhat between episodes. So you could go conceivably see the performance of the same episode twice and get a completely different experience in some elements.
Yeah, it is. I mean, certainly audiences rank the guest stars on the Fameometer sometimes quite differently to each other. And certainly when I did the shows in San Francisco and in Mendocino, I had to change my trivia and backstory about certain characters and actors, because I knew that American audiences would know them as being famous for different things. So like
Mm.
Jeff Conaway, UK audiences know him from Greece playing Kaniki, right? But they taxi was really not a thing in the UK. So
Right.
Mm.
so I really talk about taxi and Greece for American audiences. So that kind of changes up a bit. I mean, I have the house lights up, not all the way, but up quite a bit when I do the show, because people are waving their pals. So I get to see everyone and look at them, and someone will be like, okay, I think it's that person. I better okay. So it feels like a very weird individual experience, and you don't have to wave your paddle if you don't want to. So it's a very nice show. But so I guess it's yeah, the audiences, they tend to pick up on who the killer is pretty well by the end of it. But yeah, all audiences are different, and some audiences find it riotously funny from the beginning, and some they suddenly realize what's going on and then they laugh, you know. So, but yeah.
You know, the there's that whole do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life kind of trope. Do you just watch horrifically violent things on your downtime now just to kind of cleanse your system?
I mean, no, I mean I do. So when I started doing, I mean, I'm a big sci-fi freak and I'm a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan. So, I will always be loving my Star Trek and watching all of that. So that's a nice retreat for me. But when I started doing this It's a Mystery Show, it was really about the golden age of detective fiction, so 1920 to 1950 vaguely. And so when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Agatha Christie, but at the exclusion of all others. My mother kept trying to get me to read Ngaio Marsh and Dorothy L. Sayers, and I was like, no, no, no.
Josephine Tate can go kick
So I
rocks.
was
I get you.
weirdly
Yeah.
on a literarily monogamous with Agatha Christie for some reason, right? And but since then, because I started doing the show, I as part of the research, I was like, oh, you need to read these books. You need to read them. So I've started reading all these amazing books. The Conjure Man Dies by Rudolph Fisher, which is amazing. So I've now become quite well read in other ones. That's why I read A.A. Milne's The Red House Mystery, which I think is terrific. It's great, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, in my spare time, I'm constantly reading mystery novels, which
So you can't leave work at work, is what you're
No.
saying.
No, I mean, I read someone said if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And then someone's written, that's true. You'll also work the weekends.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we do the same, Luke. We're
Yeah,
no
this is
different.
true. This is very, very true. So, you've got dates in Ireland, you're currently in Scotland, you've got dates in the UK book, this is sort of your home base. Uh, when are you bringing it back to United States shores? Because you've
Yeah.
done California, but it's a big, big country.
Yeah. So I'm going to be performing the show on a cruise ship in June next year.
Oh,
That comes into New York City. So I'm currently
Oh.
approaching a venue in New York City to do it in there, which would be amazing. I'm going to go back to San Francisco and I'm going to do the Murder She Wrote. That's in May, June, and I'm going to go back to Mendocino and do it again at the Murder She Wrote Festival then. And I have got plans to hopefully be doing a tour of Chicago in the Midwest next year as well at some point. So I'm really keen to come back to America and do more. When I did the shows, American audiences really loved it and they really got my weird sense of humor. And I was delighted that was the case. I wasn't sure, but they did whether they would, but they did.
It's a
So
Venn diagram, I feel like. If
yeah,
the people self-selecting, if you're a Murder She Wrote fan, your sense of humor, your approach to life has got to be in a ballpark that's sort of into
yeah.
this
I mean,
sort
I
of
do,
thing.
there is a small percentage of people who come to the show, uh, usually older,
Hmm.
but not always, who
hmm
bring with it very serious expectations, and the show is not serious. But having said that, it's lighthearted, but it's definitely a loving tribute. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Sure.
we do poke fun at the ridiculous hairdos and the times and all of that, but I never ever in any show I never make fun of Jessica Fletcher or Angela Lansbury. They're off limits.
Of course.
I
You
mean,
know?
I think as a society, as a culture, we really should agree that like that's a
Yeah,
base rule that we should all really be
yeah,
okay with.
yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
the show is, the show is like considered conservative and of its time, I guess. But I think people forget that for 12 years it was a top ranking show with an older woman as a protagonist who didn't have a man,
hmm
and she was completely independent. You know,
Right.
it's kind of incredible that like the Golden Girls and Murder She Wrote happened around the same time. And also, you had like Dynasty in Dallas, which also celebrated older women as as powerful sexual beings, So
Absolutely.
so I think, and I'm one of the things I really love about the show is I get to celebrate a lot of the older, especially female guest stars who were in their heyday absolutely very famous and very amazing. And just there's no more roles anymore for these women. So, sometimes they just turn up um in these episodes of Murder She Wrote. It's like Vera Miles and Jane Powell in the latest episode. So yeah, so I really love doing that. I don't know how I get onto this. You asked me a question about where I'm doing it next, and I get sidetracked.
No,
No,
but that's an
it's
excellent sidetrack. That is, and
yeah.
I was raised on those shows, and now I was literally just talking to my sister about how, how amazing Joan Collins looks now in her 90s, and how as a child watching those shows, and now I'm probably older than, well, I'm turning 50 this year.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm definitely, rocking my
Yeah,
Alexis Carrington Colby, and so
yeah,
that's what it is, and
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I love is that when she took the role, uh, you can see it in the earlier episodes. They dressed her in a very dowdy way, and like there's a moment where she says, she refers to her niece and her niece's fiance as children, uh,
Mhm.
and they're like in their 20s. Um, so, but she put a stop to that. She was like, oh, you can be older and you can be fashionable, and you can be older and you can be physically fit, and
Yeah.
you can look after your health. So, I love that I run. I mean, one of the things I love to do is like I've discovered jogging in the grey tracksuit and the wig and the cover around the neck. So I just started
Do you mean
doing
on
that.
stage or just like on a random Tuesday?
Well, I do it in the show. Like I start the show by recreating the opening credits,
Love
um,
it.
47 seconds, right? So I jog on and it's very daft. But I've just started doing this on Instagram. I just started like jogging in New York City, in San Francisco. I jogged around video, just waving dementedly to people, who.
Perfect.
So I've just done a whole day of those in Edinburgh, and I'm putting those up, going around the sites of Edinburgh. And when I get back to London, I'll do London. I haven't done London yet, so yeah, it's just one of my favorite things to do. It brings joy to people,
That's
That
as
is.
opposed
amazing.
to me.
For more information about Tim, the Solve Along Murder She Wrote show, and his other show, It's a Mystery, you can find all of that on his website, solvealongmurdershewrote.com. And of course, he's also on Instagram at solvealongmurdershewrote.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?